Hello everyone and welcome to On the Clock, the one and only show that brings you the best of fantasy football and ultimate draft lineups. I'm your host CZ Cam, and unfortunately the day has come, the season finale of On the Clock, but we still have one last absolute banger of a show in store for you today, as our fantasy analysts will each be choosing who their top 3 fantasy players will be by the end of the season. In our last draft segment of the season, your GMs will be picking the best sports teams since the year 2000. All that and so much more on the season finale of On the Clock. I'm now joined with all our expert fantasy analysts, Parker, Patrick, and Zach, as this season of the On the Clock may be coming to a close, but the NFL season is still far from being over. And since our analysts will sadly not be here to help guide you through the remainder of the NFL season, they will each be sharing who their top 3 fantasy players will be by the end of the season. So Parker, who's your first top fantasy player for the rest of the season?
Well, I'll get started, CC. The most important position in all of fantasy football is always going to be the running backs. They're always going to be scarce, and the top end ones are always going to be there to carry you. That's why we got to go with Jahmyr Gibbs of the Detroit Lions. He's RB6 right now, and that is with a serious target split alongside David Montgomery, who is down there at RB11, still having a great year, but Gibbs' ability to contribute in the passing game and the ability of him to break off the biggest runs. He's youthful, he's good in your Dynasty League or in your redraft PPR League. He's going to be great no matter what, and down the stretch of the season, his youth and his energy is going to continue to kick butt for you. He's an every single week starter.
I really like that pick, Parker, especially with the Lions getting towards that playoff push. They're going to start to ease off on those David Montgomery reps and lean more into Gibbs to carry the load there. To me, all right, here we go. Number 1, Saquon Barkley. It's really obvious. He's been the best running back in football this year. I mean, outside of Derrick Henry, but we'll get to Zach for that later. But Saquon has been carrying this Eagles team. He has been putting them all on his back, and he is an absolute workhorse. There's no one that you should want to end your season more than with Saquon Barkley.
See, Patrick, now like you said, my pick, Derrick Henry. He is one more position ranked than Saquon Barkley is, and that is because of his consistency. He has 5 30-point games, and he's had 9 out of 12 15-plus point games. Yes, I know you expect him to do that, but he has a touchdown in every single game this season besides one, and he also has 1,185 yards on the season with 15 touchdowns, and he's just the best running back in the league at the moment, and he's doing this at 30 years old.
See, we like those top RBs. There's nothing wrong with that. Derrick Henry, great value picks. A lot of guys were getting him in that second round, being able, because people were buying low on him this year, and people who were very well rewarded. Someone else you could buy low on early this year, Brock Bowers. He's tight end 1 right now, playing for the Raiders. Absolutely massive target share, especially after this Devontae Adams trade. But you were able to get him in that 3rd, 4th round because he was going as tight end 5, 6. He wasn't one of those vested guys. He's a rookie, and he's already incredibly productive. He's been working no matter who's under center for the Raiders, and they have more changes coming at quarterback as people get banged up. It's a mess of a system. That being said, he's still incredibly productive, and having a tight end locked in a down year for tight ends, especially in PPR leagues, is a benefit no matter what.
All right, I really like that pick, actually. You know, the Raiders' offense hasn't been that great, but Brock Bowers has been the shining light of hope for Raiders fans with how bad that team's been. All right, moving on to my pick. All right, we all know, Parker said it earlier, running backs are the most important part in fantasy, but you can't sleep on having a great quarterback. So I just picked the best one, all right? That's Lamar Jackson. Look, Lamar Jackson's averaging 24.2 points a game this year, and for fantasy QBs, that's really good. He's got the Ravens clicking on all cylinders, minus that one loss to his kryptonite, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And overall, there's nobody that you should want than Lamar Jackson, especially as the season goes to an end. They're going to be fighting to get that home playoff game, and Lamar is going to be playing at his best.
Now, Patrick, Lamar is carrying my fantasy team personally, but I want to go back to Parker's pick real quick with Brock Bowers and saying that the tight end realm is very short this year. So that's why I got George Kittle. And yes, you got him in the 5th, 6th, 7th round of your drafts, and he's a tight end too. And one stat that I did find, he is the only tight end with 14-plus points in every single week besides one. Only 1 week he has not had 14-plus. So this dude is a workhorse, and he has 7 touchdowns on the seasons as well. So he just keeps getting the volume, and with short leverage of tight ends, he is the best one to have, in my opinion, even though Bowers is still number 1.
I don't know what squares you were drafting with if you were getting George Kittle in the 6th, 7th round, because he was going as tight end 1 or 2 most of the time. I don't dislike the pick. He's been absolutely electric this year. But I do want to say, let's not lie to our fans about where they could have been getting drafted. You must be drafting with some business majors or something.
I think I am.
I'm going to jump in, get into the quarterback market as well, and I'm going to go a value pick. Baker Mayfield has been absolutely astonishing this year, especially considering he lost Mike Evans and Chris Godwin early on in this season. He's still been excellent. He was leading the league in passing touchdowns for a good chunk of the year, has finally fallen off of that, but his ability to find guys, find the open man, and make plays no matter who is on the field for him, he's continued to be incredibly productive, even with his team falling apart around him. I've enjoyed watching him play, and he's continued to be great. Even though he's QB5, he's been absolutely electric for most teams.
You're so right, Parker. That Baker Mayfield pick is great. I love it. That game against the 49ers was incredible, and he's been doing that all year. All right. For my final pick, I'm going to be going with Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver Jamar Chase. All right, 7-11, always open. You know what he said. Jamar Chase has only had 1 game this year with less than 11 points. That is insane. Obviously, you had the 55.6-point outburst 2 weeks ago. That was incredible. Him and Joe Burrow have the best chemistry between a quarterback and a wide receiver that I have seen in a long, long time. All right, so Jamar Chase, I know the Bengals are 4-7. I know it doesn't look that great, but if they're going to get on a run, Jamar Chase is going to go off.
Now, here we go. Patrick, love the pick. I mean, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, they're trying everything in their power to win the game for the Cincinnati Bengals, and they're doing that. But anyway, I got Justin Jefferson, the best wide receiver in the NFL. And this offense needs him to produce. If he does not produce, they don't go anywhere. They're 8-2 for a reason, because of him and Sam Darnold and their connection. Now, I know I said stuff about Jordan Addison last week on a waiver drop, and he did good this week, but he only did good on one singular play. So everything is still going to Justin Jefferson, and that's all that matters, really. And he's wide receiver 3 right now, and I think he can be wide receiver 1 at the end of the year if Jamar does not keep it up.
All the LSU love from you guys.
Now, before we wrap up this segment, I just have one question for each of you. If people's teams are in shambles right now and they are having a hard time figuring out how to fix their team, what do you guys believe are the key steps for them to take if they want to turn their fantasy season around?
Well, I'll start with this. Unfortunately, the trade deadline has now passed for a lot of the most standard builds of leagues. That being said, you could still, if your trade deadline hasn't gone yet, try to make a move. Package a couple of your bench guys, see if you can get one more quality starter. That really can be the difference in most weeks. That being said, if the trade deadline is gone, keep looking for those savvy waiver plays. Keep playing the injury waiver wire. That is where you can find a lot of that value. That's where you're going to have to search for something, and that's where you get someone like Baker Mayfield coming out of the woodwork, because he was a low-drafted quarterback, and now he's super high value. So keep looking for value like that.
Absolutely. You want to be looking at that waiver wire. Just last week, I saw Bo Nix and Kate Otten right there for me. Kate Otten's been great for that Tampa Bay Buccaneers team without Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. And obviously, Bo Nix has been doing great stuff over there in Denver. So you just got to play the cards right and look on that market every single day. Try to find somebody that maybe someone accidentally let go, somebody that has a good matchup this week, and just play to their strengths.
I found DK on waivers last week.
DK on waivers.
Yeah.
Wow, that is crazy.
Sharp league, too.
Wow. Uncharacteristic by your league right there. But anyway, my word of advice is just go all in. Package those bench players and maybe a flex player, or maybe your wide receiver too. Go all in for that star-studded lineup, because at the end of the day, stars are going to win you championships. And even if they get injured, it knows that you tried, and you tried to make it happen. So no matter what, just go for those stars. That's all that matters.
Thanks for those picks, guys, and especially all the fantastic fantasy advice this season. But when we come back, our GMs will join us for the last draft segment of the season. It's reached the time for our final GM draft segment of this season, and over the last 6 weeks, our GMs have done a wide variety of drafts, including picking players and teams from the NBA, college basketball, MLB, NFL, and college football. But they now are going to draft the best teams in those leagues since the year 2000. So Evan, kicking us off for one last time this season, you're on the clock.
So for me, I'm going to get this draft started by going with the 2018 Golden State Warriors. The final year of that 4-year stretch of absolute dominance. Got to start this draft off strong.
It's a great pick. I'm going to a different side of basketball. I'm going to the women's college basketball side. Give me the 2015 UConn Huskies. 38-0 in the midst of their 111-game win streak. One of the craziest runs of all time.
I have to say, an impressive streak and a great team for you, Evan. But my next pick is my favorite pick this entire season. As a Seahawks fan, I am so happy to pick the Legion of Boom. Come on, man. 43-8 in the Super Bowl, incredible. But then, my second round pick. Give me the 2004 Red Sox. They didn't break my heart because I wasn't born yet, but they broke my dad's heart in 2004, and they also broke the curse of the Bambino, excuse me. So yeah, it's the right pick.
Well, I'm actually going to go with what I believe is the better Red Sox team. I'm going to go with the 2018 Red Sox. This team won 119 games, including postseason play. One of the most dominant teams I've ever personally watched play baseball. One of my favorite teams of all time as well.
So these guys just took the Red Sox from me, which really makes me upset. So I have to go with a baseball team now. And I'm going to go with a team that had an arguably better story than the 2004 Red Sox. Give me the 2016 Chicago Cubs. Broke the 108-year curse. Absolutely phenomenal team. And then my next team, give me the New England Patriots when they had the 28-3 comeback against the Falcons in the Super Bowl. That team went 14-2 that season, overshadowed by the absolute phenomenal performance in the Super Bowl, but a great team nonetheless.
Hated that Patriots team, hated that comeback. I'm going to one of the most dominant college football teams of all time. Give me the 2019 LSU Tigers. This team is stacked. 30 NFL players from this team, one of the craziest teams of all time.
You know, you guys had a couple basketball picks. I would pick one myself. We're going to the NBA. Give me the 2001 Los Angeles Lakers. Kobe and Shaq swept the entire Western Conference. Only lost one game in the NBA Finals, and that was Game 1. They won the rest. An incredible run for them. And my next pick, one of the second most dominant defense in NFL history. Give me the 2000 Baltimore Ravens. An incredible defense. They already have a documentary. The Legion of Boom will get theirs eventually. But for right now, we're stuck with the 2000 Ravens defense.
That's a great pick, Falco. I'm going back to college football. I'm going the 2020 Alabama Crimson Tide. This team went 13-0. They won the national championship game by 26 points. They were the most dominant team of all time. They didn't win a game by less than 15 points in the entire season. A crazy stat.
All right, I'm going to finish off the draft here. I'm going to go with one of my favorite teams of all time. You can say it's recency bias, but give me the 2023-2024 Boston Celtics. They had the 4th best net rating of all time behind 2 of the Jordan Bulls teams and the 2015 Golden State Warriors. They're way better than people realize they were.
Evan, loving the last pick. Those are some absolute goated lineups. But when we come back, our GMs will debate which team in their lineup is the best since 2000. It is now time for the final debate of this season, as our GMs will each pitch which team in their lineup is the best overall. Evan, start us off.
So I'm going to be going with the 2018 Golden State Warriors, and you just got to look at this roster. 3 players, 3 names is all I need. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant. When you ask somebody who one of the best single-season basketball players of all time is, 2018 LeBron will be mentioned quite a bit in that conversation. This team swept him in the championship. Doesn't get better than that.
We're talking about teams here, Evan, and the greatest team of all time has to go undefeated. That's the UConn Huskies. This team went 38-0 in the regular season, the year I'm talking about. But if you want to look at a stretch of time, they won 111 games in a row. That is unfathomable. That is out of this world. It's impossible to process how good that is.
That is really impressive, Jack. But that being said, with my pick, big shocker, I'm picking the Legion of Boom, my Seattle Seahawks. And when you think about that defense, holding Peyton Manning, who, by the way, had the greatest MVP run of all time, he held him to 8 points. And mind you, that Broncos defense was not bad either. And the Seahawks offense, led by Russell Wilson, Marshawn Lynch, among others, dropped 43. Incredible.
Falco, it's a good pick, but it doesn't compare to these 2 other teams. The team isn't great. It's a great team, but there's just not that legacy that you always remember. You will always remember 111 games. No one's ever going to do that again. Someone's going to have as good of a defense as the Seattle Seahawks had in 2014. No one's ever going to win 111 games in a row. Not to mention the stars in this team. Breanna Stewart, one of the greatest WNBA players of all time. Nafisa Collier, one of the best defenders in WNBA history, one of the best players in the world right now. 8 WNBA players on that UConn Huskies team that are still playing today.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at this team, they won 3 championships in 4 seasons. All of them they played against LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Those teams were really good. They had Kevin Love as well, Kyrie Irving. Those teams were great, and the Warriors were just dominating them year in and year out. This Golden State Warriors team was absolutely incredible.
I love how you leave out 2019 when they lost. Because they're technically 3-2 in the finals with this team. So that's already more games lost in 20-game stretch in the finals than this UConn Huskies team had in 3 years. That's insane.
Oh, hang on. I have to jump in here though because all right, granted, both of your teams are pretty good, obviously. I'm going to talk about Jack's, though, because, Jack, you mentioned an undefeated team. The problem is in the NCAA in women's basketball, that's happened 10 times. That's not a unique thing. But being undefeated, granted, it's very impressive, obviously. But the thing is, it's happened more than one time. What doesn't happen often is you don't shut one of the greatest MVP runs of all time down to 8 points.
Falco, I have one quick question for you.
Okay.
What is the hardest tournament in the world to win?
All right.
It's March Madness. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Guess what? This UConn Huskies team won every March Madness game by more than 25 points. So you want to talk about dominance? You dominated the Broncos. This team dominated everybody in their path. They played 10 top 10 teams. They killed every single one of them.
Sorry to cut you guys off. Now that's a way to end the last debate of the season. Hard to choose which team should take the crown, but whether or not we were fans of these teams, they have no doubt left us all in awe of their greatness. Now before we end the finale today, we have one special award to give out. Every week on the ICTV Sports 607 Instagram account, there have been GM polls posted after each episode for who drafted the best lineup. And I'd like to announce that it has been Falco who has accumulated the most votes, making him the general manager of the fall season. Congrats, Falco. Now, how does it feel to be the first ever general manager of the show?
It feels fantastic, Cece. Thank you so much. It's been phenomenal, not just to win this season, but to work with these two great gentlemen. Because not only do they try and kill me every single week, but I dig myself out of the grave and win and have won this season, and for that I'm so grateful. I'm grateful for this opportunity, grateful for these guys on the stage, and grateful for everyone in the control room. But that being said, the reason I won, and that's because when everyone else was focused on the picks I was making during the pre-show, I locked in on the picks I was supposed to make during the main show. And that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. What? And I'm very excited.
A very deserving and hard battle, Falco. Well, that wraps up everything for the first season of On the Clock. Thank you all so much for tuning in this season, and special shout out to producers Noah Abraham and Sam Fitzsimmons for all their hard work and dedication this season, for all the cast and crew, and for bringing the energy each and every week. For one final time, I'm CZ Cam. Have a spectacular rest of your day, everyone.